What if I told you that there was a way for you to become rich fast? Before you click off, thinking I'm going to sell you a get-rich-quick scheme, what if I told you that you can actually become rich relatively quickly during a recession by just investing in assets? Make sure you stay till the very end to find out how. Meet George, Eric, and Doris, 3 regular investors like yourself, who became rich because of the 2008 recession. They're here to walk you through what they did, so that you can become rich during the predicted 2023 recession. Everyone classes being rich very differently. For example, George classed himself as rich once he owned his dream car, a Lamborghini. Eric classed himself as rich once he had $1 million in his bank account. And Doris would class herself as rich once she has the ability to retire and relocate to Australia to be closer to her family. Like I said, everyone classes being rich very differently. What do you class as being rich? Let us know in the comment section below. All 3 investors in late 2007 felt that time was against them in achieving their goal of becoming rich. Doris was unsure of when she'd be able to retire with the traditional retirement age creeping up on her. And Doris knows the longer she continues working, the less time she'll get to see her grandchildren grow up. Eric was beginning to feel fed up with his job, and he wanted to switch careers to becoming a realtor. While George fantasized about owning his dream car, believing he'll attract supermodels, George wants a way to become rich quickly, as he still wants to be young while he's rich. All 3 of them knew that they needed to become rich relatively quickly, but feared it would take 15, 20, or 25 years to be reality even with investing. Especially when the 2008 recession hit, investing in uncertain times was really hard to do. Fortunately for them, what felt like an obstacle was actually a platform to riches. As Warren Buffett says about investing, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful, and that's what these investors did. They invested when others were fearful. Doris stopped investing in bonds and started to invest in the S&P 500, which was much more risky for her. She made extra money to invest in her second job as a nanny for most of her evenings. She also cut back on expenses while there was high inflation, and continued living frugally even after the recession had ended. She did this for 5 years. In 2008, Eric almost became a realtor, but due to the recession he deemed it wouldn't be a good time to switch careers. However, the learning he undertook about becoming a realtor and the property market supported him in taking advantage of the recession by becoming a real estate investor. Eric saw the massive downfall in house prices from 2008 to 2009. He noticed the Fed decreasing interest rates, making it cheaper for Eric to borrow money to snap up the discounted real estate. Despite his feelings towards the job, the market downfall kept him optimistic, so he decided to stay at his high-income job and worked overtime when he could. He did this because he knew the massive opportunity the market had presented to him to take advantage of. Eric made changes to his budget and decided to live frugally in the short term to invest intensely. Over the next 5 years, Eric saved up as much as he could and snapped up as much real estate as he could. In 2008, George focused on companies that were disruptive in their industry. He particularly took a shine to Apple, after he bought the first generation of iPhones that were released in 2007. The technology that Apple products were producing at the time he felt was revolutionary, and believed that they were a good company to invest in to become rich quickly. George also invested in Amazon stock, despite the dot-com crash that happened a few years prior. He could foresee the path technology was advancing towards, as online consumers were growing year on year, which would benefit a company like Amazon. 5 years later, all 3 investors achieved their dreams, kind of. In 5 years, the S&P 500 index recovered over 100% from its bottom low of 2009. Doris' dollar cost averaged throughout the recession and into 2013, where her investments reached over $250,000. This means that Doris has made enough money for her to retire comfortably. After all the hard work she's put in over the last 5 years to achieve her goals, she's happily living in Australia, where she's now closer to her family. She now gets to enjoy her late years watching her grandchildren grow up. Eric kind of achieved his goal by having over $1 million, but it's tied up in real estate rather than in his bank account. In the last 5 years, Eric has bought 7 rental properties. In that time frame, he's also quit his job. This is because he's receiving enough passive rental income from each property to enable him to quit the job he disliked. After becoming a real estate investor, the idea of becoming a realtor has put Eric off becoming one. He's actively exploring other options that he can do as a job that he's passionate about, now that income isn't an important factor for him. In the last 5 years, George worked extremely hard to save and invest enough money to buy his dream car. He mostly invested in Amazon and Apple. Both of these stocks grew over 200% since the 2008 recession. George's risky bet paid off for him, but once he achieved his dream, it didn't feel like he thought it would. After buying the car, George was exhilarated. He felt rich, he met attractive girls, he posted on Instagram. But the feeling didn't quite live up to what he imagined, particularly when he realised that the girls were more interested in the car than they were in him. As weeks passed, the feeling of being rich for George passed, especially when he went back to his job. It's important when investing to get rich that you have a plan for how you're going to spend, or a budget to help you make sure that you're getting the best out of your money. To learn more about how to put a budget together, be sure to check out this video up above. In the end, all three investors became rich in their own way, relatively quickly, because of the 2008 recession. They were greedy when others were fearful, as Buffett would say. They saw an opportunity and took advantage of it, and you can too in the upcoming 2023 recession. You can make your dreams a reality like these guys did. You can invest in the S&P 500 like Doris. You could purchase rental properties and explore real estate when house prices fall, like Eric. Or, like George, you could do some research into stocks with promise, and assets which are potentially high risk and high reward. But as always, be sure to take the time to research your options before making important financial decisions in an uncertain time. Do you want more investing wisdom from one of the greatest investors of all time to become rich? Then be sure to click on this next video of Warren Buffett's best investing tips.